this actually just happened just the other day. And I just want everybody to see this real quick, because again, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what this means, what this means to the museum. Sorry, I'm kind of in everybody's way here. But this is actually a class of 30, I believe 32, and again, this is from Amelia Earhart. No one, not even the teachers, have ever been to the museum. So this is actually part of the initiative. And again, I want to just talk about that. I'll talk about that a little bit more. But again, with that in mind, how many people here have been to the museum? Oh, wow. Okay, how many people have been at the museum in the last 2 years? Last year. There it is. Okay, I knew that was going to get down to the raw numbers. Okay, so here's the thing. Again, this is exactly what's talking right here, is that, you know, I had this wonderful class come in here, and we actually had, on that day, 65 from Amelia Earhart. So again, I actually sent this off to her today, and she was doing a little project and giving us a review on how, and the class, that's the other thing, the class, the students themselves actually wrote a review. And they're going to give us all that, and so I'm able to pass that on to the board. Those are something that's phenomenal. But you're not here to hear me ramble on about classes and whatnot. You guys are here to listen about a little bit more, the legacy of Patton, past and present, right?
That's right.
What is? Oh, this is something new. Okay. Okay, that's good. All right, well, obviously, you guys know who I am. My name is Mike Labels. I'm the Executive Director of the General Patton Memorial Museum. But before I begin talking a little bit more about General Patton and the Desert Training Center and the museum, you have no idea who I really am outside the small little intro that I just had. So I think that it's important to talk a little bit about who I am. Hold on a second, let me try to get in the silhouette. I got this gentleman right here in the silhouette because it looked like it was pretty chrome dome there, so you know, pretty much looked right. I use the terms I am. It's actually historically significant because again, back in the civil rights, African Americans actually wore signs called I am a man, and things like that. And so I thought that it was appropriate to actually start here saying I am. I am a college educated man who, by the way, no one in my family has ever graduated with their bachelor's degree or a master's degree. But again, my niece, she's working on it right now. So that's awesome. So that's inspiration right there, just alone. But I actually graduated with a bachelor's in art history because, well, it's same to me. I love art. You talk to me about the Renaissance, and I can talk to you until you're blue in the face. Actually, I'm blue in the face. So, but I love the era. It seems to me because it's romantic. It's a very romanticized era, and I love it. I've actually been to Florence, been to Paris several times, and I love it. But early on in my education, I had no idea what the heck I was going to do. No idea. And so my professors actually sat down and talked to me about it. And so I looked at a couple different areas. You know, interior decorating. I'm like, nah, that doesn't work. And so, but I did a class on museums and exhibitions. And that's where I got hooked. Since that point, I've worked for the Holmes Museum of Anthropology as the curator of exhibition. I worked for the International Museum of Cultures as their director of education. After that point in time, I felt like I needed to move into a different area. And that's when I started working for A&R Transport as the project manager. I developed crates, I hung art for museums and private owners of art that had priceless pieces of art. I kid you not, some amazing pieces. And I realized that there was a piece of me that was missing. And it just took a very long time to figure out what the heck it was. But the museum world sang to me. it was missing. Part of my life was missing. I went to a conference and I actually sat across the aisle from all these museum professionals. And I realized that I'm on the wrong side. I need to be on the other side. And that's when I started looking as a director. Whenever I started looking, the National WASP World War II Museum, Women Air Force Service Pilots, not white Anglo-Saxon pilots, or the insects. I was there for 3 years. The National WASP World War II Museum, has anybody heard of Jackie Cochran?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? You guys know who she is.
Yes.
You kind of sort of. She was the director of the WASP program. The program actually started out in Houston, which is funny because A&R Transport is in Houston. And then from there, the program went to Sweetwater, Texas. Now, do you guys know where she ended up, right?
Here,
That's right. Yeah, she ended up here. in the
best
Valley.
place on earth.
After the war, she ended up here. And it's funny because here I am. It just seems like I'm following greatness. So, but the problem was is that, and I love the WASP Museum. You know, the era, these ladies, I have to tell you right now, if you've ever met one, they're snarky. You never tell them that they can't sit where they want to sit because they will eat you alive. I kid you not, less than 30 days in, I had a program with several of them being there. And one of them told the granddaughter, "Don't you ever tell me where I can sit." I turned around, walked the other way. So the National WASP World War II Museum, both our opinions of how the museum should go differ. And obviously that happens from time to time. The board of directors and I, we partner on good ways. And so at that point in time, I started looking at the General Patton Memorial Museum. This wasn't actually the only museum that I was looking at that point in time. But again, how can you not follow greatness? The board of directors actually brought me here. We did a phone interview. Less than a week later, they brought me here. They flew me out. And I kid you not, they picked me up at the Palm Springs Air Museum, the Palm Springs Airport, drove me straight out there, where I went directly right into an interview. So at no point did I ever drop off my bags or anything. So I'm going straight on in, and they talk about full day, and I was out there for about 12 hours, and I'd never put my stuff away. So then finally, I scampered on into my hotel room and fell asleep for about, I go at least 5 hours before I woke up because of the time change. So that kind of gives you an idea of where I came from. So that's kind of a brief overview of who I am. The Desert Training Center, also known as the California-Arizona Maneuver Area, also known as the land God forgot. Has anybody ever been out to the Desert Training Center or any area out there in the desert? Yeah, if you've been down to the museum, everybody should raise their hands because the museum is right here, Camp Young. So, the Desert Training Center, and this is a couple fun facts about the museum and, well no, excuse me, not the museum, but the Desert Training Center, not the museum. The Desert Training Center actually was founded back in March 1942. General Patton actually he did this in less than 1 month. He established the Desert Training Center. He actually did this on horseback as well as he flew over these areas, and he felt that this was the best place imaginable to do this training. Now, how many of you have ever done a very hard run? Like a really, really brutal, yeah, right? Okay. Have you, Spartan?
No.
Spartan run? No. I saw his eyes light up. But you know what the Spartan run is, right? What is the Spartan run?
It's just almost like a marathon, but in addition, there's obstacles and different things you have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Did everybody hear that? It's very brutal, you know, pretty brutal, right? Pretty brutal. Okay. I've actually done 2 Spartan beats. Okay? So it's mentally and physically challenging. And that's what General Patton wanted. He wanted to find an area that he can train his troops that's mentally and physically challenging. Because he was wanting to put his men to the harshest conditions imaginable so he can get them prepared for the harshest conditions imaginable. That's the Desert Training Center for you. Now, the Desert Training Center actually consists of 18,000 square miles. Think about this, folks. You can fit a couple states in it. The other day, I was talking to my fiance about this, and she said, you know, the size of Rhode Island can fit in Fort Worth. So I was like, okay, so we can probably fit 18,000 square Rhode Islands in here. So, maybe not quite. So, but anyways, if you think about it, it is massive. It's actually considered the largest training ground in the world. Okay? And I believe it is still to this day. Now, parts and pieces of it is still being used today by the military. The Mojave Desert. There's restricted areas out there. Anybody that goes over there by the Desert Center, you may hear some of the nice, wonderful rumbles because of the bombing range. Yes, that's right. So they're still utilizing it today. However, you see this nice wonderful thing right here? 29 Palms. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily in the Desert Training Center. A lot of people actually believe it is, but it's not. In fact, when I first started here working at the museum, I thought it was, because it just made sense, right? They're utilizing an area that was actually applied back in the war. However, the mentality, that's the catch. The mentality is still there, and it's still being applied today. But this is, it was 12, again, you guys can read, oh my God, you guys can do this. But anyways, it's 12 camps and 5 airfields. Now, think about the magnitude. Think about this. Over 1 million troops trained in this during the duration of the war. At any given time, they had 30,000 troops training and didn't even interfere with any of the other camps. Think about that. 30,000 troops doing combat training and didn't even interfere. That's how massive it was. Now, I love the notion here that he had this wonderful, wonderful vision of this area. Now, there's some other areas, there's some other things that I'd like to mention here. General Patton, again, putting the rigors on his troops. Do you guys realize that during the training process, they were, the regular foot soldiers were required to impact, run 3 miles. His officers, 5 miles. During the time that General Patton was here, he ran 6. He was always in the lead. He was always in control, and he wanted to show his guys, his troops, that he was above and beyond. They respected him. That's what it was respect. Honestly. This is a wonderful photo of the Desert Training Center during combat simulations, by the way. You see, it wasn't just the ground troops. It was the whole 9 yards, all of it together. But again, the desert is a killer. And we must acclimate our soldiers to the climate. Now, think about this. The training conditions were primitive. No barracks, no running water, winter temperatures, 100 degrees, below freezing at night. Inside the tanks, it was 130 degrees in the shade. It was 150 to 160 inside the tanks. That's right. That is training. That is putting the men in the toughest conditions imaginable and then expecting them to do more. That's what we're talking about. Now, this is one of those things where not everybody realizes, and again, I kind of had a little fun here. They also experience flash floods, sandstorms, snakes, and scorpions. Oh my. Yes, I'm from Kansas, folks. So,
Not in Kansas anymore.
no, I'm not. But this is just one of those things where, again, I wanted to everybody understand the conditions, because it is important to understand what these guys went through, and over 1 million men did. Now again, not every man that went through this training facility actually went to the European theater. Some of them went over to the Pacific. But again, it was that mental and physical rigor, putting them through that toughness, so that way that they were able to overcome any sort of obstacle that they had to during that moment. Again, Spartan, right? Mental, physical. No, I really no. If you look on the other side of this, I actually have a sticker to it.
Yes, I see.
Yeah. Now, this just gives me a good leeway into, because again, we've already started talking a little bit more about the men that, 29 Palms. But again, this gives me an opportunity to start talking about the museum. The museum, it's not just about General Patton. It's about the principles that still live on. After World War II, everybody kind of questioned, okay, well, just